Hi and welcome to Cars and Coffee Stories. We are in San Clemente, California. I'm standing here with Joseph. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Tell us about your car.
All right, this is an S30 chassis Fairlady Z from Japan. It was imported at some point a long time ago. It spent some time in a museum in Massachusetts, and it was later purchased by the head of R&D engineering at Mazda USA, who did the restore of the car. He had the car painted. Every body panel was painted separately, replaced all the trim. That's why it looks so immaculate. They did a really good job on the restore of the body and chassis, the interior. And then a friend of mine who owned a shop with his dad, working on Z cars and specializing in engine swaps on old 240Zs, did the mechanical work for this gentleman who was doing the restore. And they swapped in an RB25 from a Nissan Skyline R33. It's a single turbo. They chose the RB25 because it's typically it's always made it to a rear-wheel drive drivetrain, whereas the RB26 is an all-wheel drive drivetrain. So it's an easier swap, and just makes a certain amount of sense in this car. You know, it's a Nissan motor in a Nissan car. It's an homage to the original. It's still a 6-cylinder. You know, some people do a 4-cylinder swap. They go with an SR20 or something like that, where they can make power and save a little weight. But this car, you know, it's not the most balanced car on the planet. Very front heavy. It's got a big motor in the front, and it's around 360 to 380 wheel horsepower.
Oh.
So it's over 400 crank horsepower and a pretty light car. So it moves, and it makes boost between 3,500 and 4,000 RPM and really wakes up. But if you drive it at low RPM, light throttle, it does feel like an old Z car, so it's cool.
What's your best moment with the car?
My best moment with the car is probably my worst moment with the car. It's when a certain amount of respect was developed for the car. I was driving behind a couple of acquaintances who I hang out with sometimes at the Lamborghini Newport Beach meet. And they're a father and son. Each one of them have a Lamborghini Aventador SV. So I'm driving behind, you know, hoping not to run into these people, right? And I'm following them, and I don't know where we're going, but we're on Jamboree. We're going maybe 65 miles an hour, and I think we're going straight, and it's a green light, so I'm not going to slow down. There's no reason to slow down. And then they swing into the left turn lane, which is a red light. So I realized going full speed that where I expected to continue going full speed, I now have to come to a stop behind these guys and gesture left into the left turn lane. So I stomp on the brakes, and this car has a Willwood disc brake conversion, has very strong brakes and not very fat tires. So the back, I mean, all the weight's in the front. The back end of the car comes up and out, and I'm just looking at the curb, sliding diagonally, not scrubbing off much speed, careening into a Lamborghini Aventador SV, who's behind another Lamborghini Aventador SV. And I'm like, this is the end. This is how the car dies. This might be how I die. This is how my insurance policy dies. I'm about to plow into these guys. And I let off the brake and counter-steered, corrected, and was just able to not hit these guys in front of me, but it scared the daylights out of me, and I feel very fortunate to have learned that lesson without crashing, because now I drive the car a whole lot differently. It stays in the garage unless I bring it out to Cars and Coffee or something like this.
Oh,
Yeah, I have a Lotus Elise that I drive more often, and then I have an Audi S4 that's like the daily driver. So,
but this is definitely
my favorite.
The most fun. Right. What do you like about the design of the car?
I think the shape of it is just timeless. I feel like the shape of the car still today, and even the interior, because I've looked at some other Nissan cars that were made in the late 60s, early 70s, and this car was just so far ahead of its time when it was designed, and it's also signed by the designer of the car, Mr. Matsui, and Mr. K, who's the father of the Datsun brand. He's the one who decided that the car shouldn't be called the Fairlady in the U.S. He also signed the car, so it's kind of a rare gem. But as far as the design of the car goes, I just think the shape of it, the fact that they took design cues from the Jaguar, the Jaguar E-Type, and a little bit of Corvette influence, a little bit of Stingray influence. It's just they nailed it in terms of a timeless shape.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great to meet you.
Nice to meet you.